Welcome to today's video, everybody. It's Ryan, also known as Max Afterburner, also known as your fighter pilot next door. Today we're diving into the Block 80 F-16, basically a concept F-16 that could be adapted from a Block 70 or Block 72 F-16, which has been produced for partner nations from the US. The War Zone reported on this story, CW Limon, all the different channels have commented on this story, but I have some backroom information for you all, some things I learned while being an F-16 Thunderbird pilot that I thought you might like to know. And it has to do with the follow-on jet for the Thunderbird. So stay to the end of the video for that story. That should be a fun one. But today we're diving into the world of the F-16, the undisputed backbone of the fighter force, 4,500 around that of these jets operating around the world with partner nations, with the United States, just a real fullback, the running back, the one you hand the ball to and they just slug it out and they get 2 to 3 yards of play, maybe 5 yards of play, and they make it happen. They are literally the athlete of the skies. So today we're going to dive into that brand new version of the legendary F-16 fighting Falcon, which is likely not what you will hear actual fighter pilots call it. To all of us F-16 pilots, it's the Viper. It just sounds cooler. And what's most important in fighter aviation, guys, I've told you this many times, gotta sound cool on the radio. So let's talk about the Block 80. Why would the Air Force want a new F-16? It's 2025. We've got the F-47, we've got the F-55, potentially F-35, F-22. How would these jets be used and how do they actually fit into the future of air combat with drone wingmen, cutting-edge missiles, all this latest tech, AI algorithms? Why the F-16? Buckle up because we're going to break it all down. We're going to do a deep dive. And don't forget, go ahead and smash that subscribe button and the like button. Let's dive in. So the F-16 Block 80, the next gen Viper. Let's talk about why the Air Force might want this Block 80 F-16. The Viper has been a workhorse for decades, over 4,500 of these things built and still flying, like we talked about, dozens of countries. But the Air Force's current F-16 fleet is aging. And I saw this firsthand. I went to Holloman Air Force Base, learned how to fly the F-16, did a ton of dogfighting, dropped bombs, shot the gun, aerial refueled, and learned the ins and outs of the F-16 over the course of 3 or 4 months as I transitioned from the F-15E to the F-16. But these jets are older. They fly extremely well. But you can just tell, you get inside one and it does not have that new jet smell. And that takes its toll on the airframe, on the wing spars, on the different avionics that are in the jet. These all need to be replaced. So at what point does it make more sense just to build a Block 80 rather than resurrecting these Block 50s and Block 52s? I flew the Block 52 with the Pratt & Whitney 229 engine, wide mouth intake. Love flying that jet. I could accelerate at 400 knots and 9 Gs. That's why this thing can get you in trouble, and that's why the Viper is just a beast. But these Block 50s and Block 52s could be approaching the end of their service life. So replacing them with the stealthy F-35, it sounds great, but here's the catch. The F-35 program is the most expensive program in Pentagon history. According to a 2025 report from the War Zone, the Air Force is exploring cheaper options to maintain its fighter fleet size and capability. So enter the Block 80 F-16. It's a modernized, cost-effective fighter that could bridge the gap. But what's driving this overall decision? It's really all about combat mass. And let's talk about combat mass. That's just fun to say. But the Air Force needs enough fighters to counter growing threats like China expanding its Air Force, advanced drones, and General David Alvin, the Air Force Chief of Staff, recently hinted that the Block 80 is a way to boost numbers without breaking the bank. Posts on X have also shown the buzz around this idea, which users point out that the new F-16s could potentially complement the stealthy F-35s and the upcoming F-47's next generation air dominance platform. And then Lockheed Martin's new F-16 production line in South Carolina is already churning out those advanced Block 70 and Block 72 models. So what would that Block 80 look like? So exact specs aren't public yet, but we can make an educated guess based on the Block 70 and Block 72 and proposals like the F-16IN. So picture this, an F-16 with a Northrop Grumman AN APG-80 ASO radar for tracking multiple targets, advanced electronic warfare suites to jam enemy systems, and maybe even conformal fuel tanks for extra range. I would say that would be a necessity just to extend the range of where these F-16s might be operating in the South China Sea, or even doing missions against enemies like the Houthis. The more time you have to loiter and be up above the battlefield without aerial refueling, the more it extends your combat capability. It could also have a reduced radar cross-section, making it sneakier than older Vipers. These upgrades would make the Block 80 a multi-role beast, capable of air-to-air combat, ground strikes, even electronic warfare, and you could do that with modernizing the shape of the wings, the way that radar waves would bounce over the wings, and even incorporating a new advanced radar absorbent paint would help reduce the radar cross signature of the Block 80. So how would the Air Force really use these Vipers? Primarily, they'd bolster capacity for missions where stealth isn't critical. Think patrolling no-fly zones, supporting ground troops, or engaging enemy aircraft in contested airspace, because again, the Viper is very good at suppression of enemy air defenses, and the Block 80 would just be another step up for that due to its advanced electronic warfare suite. They could also serve as that loyal wingman controller, and this is where it really makes sense to me. If you're going to have an asset up in the sky, why not make it the cheapest, most economical fighter we have, the F-16? Put that advanced fighter pilot up there controlling multiple wingmen. You don't necessarily need that F-47 unless you're flying in contested airspace yourself, but you could put yourself in a position where you're outside of that contested airspace, controlling those loyal wingmen who are inside contested airspace, and then you've dramatically reduced the cost of having a fighter airborne that has that fighter pilot up there making time-critical decisions. So imagine this: Block 80 F-16s detect an enemy fighter 100 nautical miles away. Instead of engaging directly, it sends a CCA loaded with missiles to take the shot, while the F-16 stays safe and coordinates the next move. This human-machine teaming is a game changer. It reduces the risks to pilots, and it can overwhelm enemies with sheer numbers and with those CCAs coming from different axes. So the enemy might not even know where the missiles are going to launch from. It could literally launch from 10 miles behind it, 45 miles in front of it, 100 miles to the beam. There's so many different options that would keep the enemy guessing with the CCA intertwining with this Block 80 and with the human-machine teaming that is taking place with this new generation of air warfare. So let's talk missiles. The F-16 already carries the AIM-120 AMRAAM, a beyond visual range missile with a range of somewhere around 100 nautical miles. The actual numbers are classified. It also carries the short range AIM-9X Sidewinder, but the Air Force is looking at new options, especially for CCAs. Think about these F-15s that have recently shot down multiple drones. I've also got a video coming on that, shameless plug. They shot down dozens of drones with AMRAAMs, AIM-9Xs, missiles that can cost close to $1 million each, going up against a balsa wood drone with a lawnmower motor and a bomb strapped to it. This just doesn't make sense from an economic warfare perspective. So we gotta do something different. So the Air Force says it wants a low-cost, high-speed missile that's half the size of the AMRAAM. That would be perfect for drones and potentially perfect for the autonomous wingmen and F-16s, knowing which threats they're gonna go up against. So a missile like that uses economy of force would maximize range, and it would reuse existing components, hopefully, to keep costs down. But then the next step, let's go bigger. So we went small, you know me, I gotta go big as well. And that's the AIM-260, which is a Joint Advanced Tactical Missile, or a JATM. It's in development by Lockheed Martin. It's designed to outrange China's PL-15 missile. It has a classified range that's likely well over 100 nautical miles. Could be targeted on high-value assets like tankers or airborne early warning systems, or just going up against fighters if you have enough of these things to fire off. The Block 80 F-16 would almost certainly be able to carry the AIM-260. In my opinion, I would not make a Block 80 F-16 that couldn't carry the AIM-260, because you want versatility in your force. So yeah, you would want it to carry those smaller drone planking missiles, but you also want it to have the ability to carry the AIM-260, even if it was just two of them, one strapped underneath each wing. The ability for it to carry that and have the versatility of that would also need to be matched by the CCAs, by those combat wingmen. Everybody needs to be able to carry the same missiles and the same load, in my opinion, just for that economy of force. But the AIM-260 would give this Block 80 a long-range punch to counter the advanced threats that we're seeing, like that PL-15. And for the CCAs, the Air Force is exploring modular missile designs from Boeing, which could be scaled for different missions, from compact dogfighting missiles to very long-range ones. And again, versatility in your air-to-air weapons is what's most important in dogfighting and beyond visual range engagements today. Now I'm going to share with you that backroom story of the Block 80 F-16. So there's a two-star who is in charge of procurement of F-16s. At this time, this two-star worked for the Air National Guard. We flew this two-star in the back of one of our F-16s, and it was strategic. We were asking him specifically what the replacement for the F-16 on the Thunderbirds might be. And you guessed it, he hinted at an advanced F-16 that potentially hadn't been built yet, but that would take notes from the Block 70 and Block 72. He said in high up Pentagon discussions, there was talks about building an advanced F-16 for the US Air Force because of that critical mass of air power that the US Air Force needs. And in a recent diagram put out by General Alvin, you can see the F-16 is still a massive backbone of the Air Force fleet. Even though we've got the F-47, the F-22, these advanced fighters, that F-16 proudly sits on that diagram and shows us that it is going to stand the test of time. It is going to continue to be produced for the US Air Force, in my opinion. And that's what this two-star told us. He said you could expect that one day, instead of replacing the Thunderbirds with F-35s, the Thunderbirds would be replaced by advanced Block 80 F-16. So there you have it. You heard that rumor from me first. It's a very good rumor, comes from a very good source. And if I was a betting man, again, I only bet with my life, but if I was a betting man on other things, I would say that the Block 80 will one day be a huge part of the Air Force inventory, and it will slowly start to replace legacy Block 50 and Block 52 F-16s. It just makes sense to redo the F-16 due to wing spar issues, due to the stressors that have been put on these F-16s for years, but more importantly because of the advanced avionics suite that can be totally intertwined into the guts of that F-16. So I would expect to see this soon, probably within the next 5 to 10 years, the F-16 Block 80 being produced for the Air Force. And I wouldn't be surprised if the first run of these things had a lot going to the Thunderbirds. So probably 2 or 3 combat squadrons getting these jets, and then the Thunderbirds getting them at the exact same time. Thanks so much for watching, guys. It's Ryan, also known as Max Afterburner, signing off.